is exposure creates familiarity. And familiarity calms down those nerves.
Okay.
Also remote.
Yeah.
Because now, like even if he was getting unsettled, you could taper him down using this tool where you're like, no
Yeah.
need to be.
So that's what I wasn't sure about. We haven't used it like in the house at all. Well, I haven't. I don't know about Simon, but because I don't really. He hasn't been too anxious.
Sure.
He's just been like. I think when we start to leave again, like if we ever have to go back to work, that's going to be the hard part. Is like the separation anxiety,
Yeah.
just because he's never been alone in this apartment.
Oh, sure, I should say.
So do you know what I mean? Like I feel like that's going to be the point where we're probably going to need to use this more. Maybe I'm thinking.
So,
I don't know.
was he ever created when you guys left before?
No. So we tried it and we got noise complaints. We actually got evicted from a building because of him.
Oh, wow.
So he was just crying so much, and so after that we just stopped and we moved to a new place. And then he had like there was like a separate dining room that was just his space, and that was his room. And then that's where we left him when we left.
Okay. Has there been any degree of separation since COVID or moving?
No.
So I don't know how it's going to play out for you, but what I've been suggesting to people is one of the options is if you work, let's say you and Simon work a standard 9 to 5, outside of COVID or whatever, where you would leave.
Yeah.
Is that even though you're working from home, from 9 to 5, I'd have them in a room or whatever separated. Okay. Because you're even though you're not leaving the home, you're creating separation.
Okay.
And you're getting them used to you're not going to be with us all day, every day. Okay. So if you're not going to use your kennel because of the noise, I completely understand that. I would use whatever you would do, like the kitchen with the gate or whatever, right? Now, what you might find is because you are there and there's separation, and he can't get to you, he might whine. But now you have this.
Yeah.
That you could correct it with the e-collar while you're there, but you wouldn't say anything.
Okay.
So if you're at your computer working and he's, Bailey is whining, tap tap, he quiets down, he goes and lays down, I continue working.
So just like with the place, like just tap it till he goes.
So he doesn't have to go to place.
Okay.
Because all you're doing, it's like, I don't care what you do, just don't whine.
Okay.
Right? So what you might find is if you do have a placemat or a bed in that area, he may go to it, but that's not what we were asking him to do. We were simply asking him to be quiet. He just opted to go there as an additional step. Okay. But it's not required of him.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say place because when you're gone, if he starts whining, there's no one going to be there to say place, right? Yeah. So when we go into behavior mode, it's simply a correction or aversive for something you want to stop from happening again. So positive reinforcement, great for stuff you want to see again. Positive punishment, great for stuff you don't want to see again.
Okay.
So in training, positive means to add. Add something good, add something bad. And those two things working together make a really good formula. Okay? So, you got dogs. Okay. That's okay. So,
You're doing so good, bud.
Was there a couple of taps there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
So right there, for example, he pulled over here and you said, I don't want you to do that. And he came back around, but he went into your side because that's what he knows, right? But that's same thing for whining and anxiety. It's just, we don't want you to do that. And I don't care what you do, but just don't whine. Okay. Now, you do want to start this the moment he whines.
Okay.
So don't try to ignore it and then 10 minutes later, okay, now this is annoying.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to collar you up. Now I'm going to correct you. If you know he's got that habit, I just collar him up. I'm ready for it. The moment I hear that first little correct right there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because right now, so Simon is on video calls all day, so he closes off his office, and then my office is open, but it's down a long hallway, and he just stays in the living room. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard him whine out there, but I also, when he comes near me, I do protect him.
Okay, so yeah.
I will try it without, like support, so ignore him, and maybe even, closing my door, for an hour and seeing what he does.
I'd leave, actually, I would say you can leave your doors open and just put a gate up.
Yeah, okay.
Some kind of barrier.
Okay.
Because when you do what you would do if you weren't working from home. Okay. Right? Which would, like at the previous place, you had a barrier that was his space. Yeah. You recreate that same thing, right? Because when you guys do leave, that's what you're gonna do. So you're setting the environment up to already be familiar. So when that day comes, he's already done it. The only difference is now you're not there. Okay. Okay. Now, if he starts whining and stuff or barking and there's noise complaints with that stuff, you can get a bark collar. Okay, and there's a bark collar that does correct whining as well.
Okay.
And if you end up needing that, I can send you that information.
Okay, great.
Okay. Other questions, Avery? It's an older dog. That's a picture. Other questions?
Nope. We're good.
Alrighty.
We did pretty good with the
So we did place,
Yep.
we've done heel, we did recall, right? Now we have, all that stuff is the sit and the down command, right? Okay. Does Bailey have a down?
Does he know it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does?
Yeah. He's pretty good about it.
Can you show me what your down looks like?
Yeah.
And if you need treats, whatever, do whatever you need to. Where'd it go?
On the side of the bench.
Where?
By the bench.
Sorry, I missed that one. Try it again.
They've done a great job of this.
Okay, good. All right. So he's got a pretty good response. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay a remote over this. So what are we on, class 5?
I think so.
Yeah, 5 or 6, yeah. So typically with 12-week programs, the first 5, 6 classes is everything on leash, long leash and stuff, and then the second half is progressing all that stuff towards off leash. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna have you lightly pull up on your leash and give Bailey a tap here. So lightly pull up, keep that tension, tap, and then relax. Okay. Now if this happens, what we're gonna do is when you pull up, keep that tension, up and tap, 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 and relax. Good. Up, tap, and relax. Okay. So we're gonna use pressure to teach Bailey that there's another kind of cue. So right now your cue is down, like this, right? I like to get down, dogs do, and I don't have to do the exaggerated cue.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do here is I'm gonna have you let your leash go slack now. And with that left foot, you see how there's like a little J there?
Yep.
You're gonna step on it so that you end up putting pressure on the back of Bailey's neck. So step on it. So do you feel any tension? No. So then you're gonna pull up, yep. A little bit, try a little bit more. Oh, there, okay. And tap. What's your number? Let's go to 15. And go ahead and position yourself next to Bailey. Okay, and we're gonna try that again. And tap, 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 tap. Right, see what he does here. Shorten that leash some more. There you go. Yep. Almost. It's okay. Go ahead and reposition so you're beside him. There you go. It's okay, yeah, I know. And tap. Tap. Yeah. Right there. Now praise.
Yeah, good boy, Bailey.
We're not going to
Good
care about this
boy.
right here.
Good boy, yes.
Okay. You see how he popped up?
Yeah.
So right now, I only care about teaching Bailey to lay down through pressure.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not saying down because let's say you did say down and he did it, it doesn't give us the opportunity to teach. Okay? So what we're looking to create here is that downwards pressure on the back of his neck to create this kind of crook, and then tapping, because down is already familiar to him, to get this to happen next. Okay? Once we get that consistently, then we're going to start layering in the cue of down. Okay? So again, go to reposition your leash.
I also did notice whenever he's wearing the collar now, he lets us pet him like crazy.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. Never let us do that. It's like he knows that when we do it.
Good. And tap, 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 tap. Right, now let's see what he does. So go ahead and reposition so you're beside him. Go ahead and put him in a sitting position. There you go. Yep, there you go. There you go. So when he does this, what we're gonna do here is, do you have your mask?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have Bree show you.
Okay.
Because he's fidgeting around a lot.
Yeah.
It's because of that anxiety. It's normal. As you do this more with him, he will settle a bit. Okay? So I'm gonna have Bree to give you a visual. So part of the issue here is that he's got too much slack. So we want to keep him as stationary as possible, okay? So the first thing we do is we get him in a sitting position, and you're gonna step on it, right? Careful. And get him back in that sitting position. Tap. 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 It's okay. And relax. Good. Subtle pressure. Right there is good. Tap. 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 Right there. Great.
Good boy, Bailey. Good boy.
Let me have you repeat that a couple more times, Bree.
Sorry,
Tap.
worried about other people.
Tap. Tap. Up. Tap. Relax. Subtle pressure. Tap. Correct the sitting position. Tap. Tap. Up. Tap. 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 Tap.
Should I be making eye contact with him?
You're okay. You do whatever you're gonna tap. Now recorrect the sitting position. Try do the hand on the back, Bree.
With the step?
Huh?
With the step?
No, with the keep the leash short so that if he gets up, you can put the butt back down with the touch and then go back to the back.
This?
Yeah. Almost. Right, keep it short. Tap. 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 Up. Tap. Good. Go to reposition. Good. And praise.
Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
Go ahead and do it 2 more times, Bree. Tap. 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 Right.
Good boy, buddy. Good boy. Nope.
1 more. And praise.
Good boy, Bailey.
And break. Very good. So now we'll pass him off.
Okay,
So what I'm gonna have you do is,
good boy, Bailey.
since Bailey is an anxious type,
Yeah.
you see how anxiety wants to move,
Yeah.
right? Is what we're gonna do is go ahead and you're gonna shorten your leash so he has only about a foot of slack there. Okay. Now up, tap, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna pass the leash to your right hand with the remote. Yep. And then with the left hand, very light pressure on the shoulders going down. Tap. And praise.
Good boy, Bailey. Good boy. Okay.
And we're gonna repeat that 4 more times, okay?
Okay. Bailey.
Shorten the leash. And praise.
Good boy. Good boy, bud. Okay.
3 more. And praise.
Good boy, Bailey. Good boy. Okay.
Good. 2 more.
I know. You're gonna choke yourself out, baby.
And praise.
Good boy. Good boy. Okay.
All right. And 1 more. Now on this one, once he completes it, you're not gonna praise him. Okay, I'll instruct you what to do once he goes in that position. So lightly pull up, cap, good, relax, wait a moment. Shorten your leash, good. And relax, right? Now go ahead and let that leash go slack, and with your left foot, step on the middle of it right there. Good, right? So, just because Bailey knows down with a verbal cue, doesn't mean he'll just do it with remote. So you see how he kept hopping up?
Yeah.
That's a dog's first response. Typically, we're trying to lay a remote over a down. Okay? So we have to use pressure to guide him into position, so then he goes, oh, there's another answer to the remote. Because before it was come over here, it was walk at our side, it was go to this object, right? So we're teaching him that there is another answer to remote pressure. Okay? And he'll learn to decipher which one it is by the verbal cue. Okay. So the reason why we switched approaches was because when we would step on the leash, because he got anxious, he started to buck around. So instead, we flip it to this because if he tries to move, it's easier to correct. So once he started fidgeting, we keep the tapping going until he ends up completing the path. So we don't stop and reset. Okay. When you do the stepping approach, in his case, we had to stop and reset because he was too tangled up, right? So there's more than one way to teach this. There's the neck pressure, there's the neck with the hand pressure, or there's just the hand pressure. So now he knows through remote collar how to go into position. And what we're looking to create is what I call ease of response, which was on that last one, it was a very light touch, and he laid down, no argument. The second half of this is lay down, don't move. So the first few, what did he do? Got right up, right? And I go, don't worry about it, let it slide, because what we're focused on is laying down in the first place, right? Because if you try to do lay down, stay down right off the bat, it's too much information, the dog won't obtain it, okay? So I simplify it. I go, we're gonna worry about getting the down first, making it easy. Then once he gets it, because his stress levels go up, because you're using pressure to put him in a submissive or vulnerable position, a lot of dogs don't like that. I've had completely friendly dogs become aggressive over this command, okay? Because I'm using pressure to put them in a vulnerable position. So they go, no, it's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
But once he understands that, oh, this isn't that bad, then we get the down without the pop-up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because he's getting the concept of like, oh, that's all I need to do. I get it. Okay. So in anxious, nervous dogs, it looks worse in the beginning because they don't know what to do fully. But once they get the concept, after a few reps, the nerves settle. They go, oh, I get it. Like this isn't that hard. I don't need to. Okay. Have you ever employed the down command with Bailey? Like, have you ever used it realistically or like functionally?
I guess we like gone out to dinner before, or in the car specifically. Like my parents and us not doing a 3-hour drive, so Downing came in the back seat next day.
Okay.
But I mean, I feel like that's because it's like a couch ride.
Oh, sure. Like it's comfortable and
Yeah.
stuff, right?
But restaurants, he's okay. When the waiter comes, he like thinks that they're coming to see him. So he's up again, but then like generally he's gonna back down.
Okay.
But that's really it. I don't know what else would you recommend you use it for.
I mean, those are like the pretty standard things, right?
Okay.
So then it sounds like he's got a fairly functional down, but now it's down and there's rules behind it. So let's say with him and like the waiter, right? Especially like in the beginning when you get a dog that's like apprehensive or shy of people, there are some things that I'll overlook.
Yeah.
That would be one of them. So like if I have a dog that's like antisocial, nervous of people, and I take him out and then the waiter comes and he says hi to the waiter, even though he broke the down command, I go, I'm gonna let this slide because the behavior of being comfortable with strangers is more important to me than the obedience. Obedience I can always fix, I can always teach later on. But the behavior stuff may not always happen depending on how he feels about the person, okay? So I let stuff like that go. Now, once we get him to a point where it's like, okay, he's fairly social, we're happy with where he's at behaviorally, then I tighten up on things, okay? Because if I allow him to keep breaking that command when somebody approaches him, you're creating gray area for your obedience, and the realistic function of it is going to dip. It's not going to be reliable. Okay, and if it's not reliable, it's like, what's the point of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go to a restaurant, maybe in the home it's going to be stationary and not be like, maybe you don't have an immediate place to put them on. You take them to a friend's house, you come to the park, like anywhere it's like, you know what, we need you to be stationary because we're going to do something, you would employ the down. We do not use the sit command for anything longer than a few minutes typically, because realistically speaking, dogs get uncomfortable with sitting, that they will reposition and end up laying down or standing up. Okay. So like let's say you're walking with Bailey, you come across a neighbor, and you're gonna have a long conversation. Right? Proactively, I would either release Bailey, right, as I talk to the neighbor, or if it's I don't know what's going on around me, I'd rather have him under control. You would down him. Then I step on the leash. So if you start to feel a tug at your leash as you're talking, what does that tell you? You tap him, right? He's getting out of position. So then you would correct him, and he should lay back down again, and then go back to having that conversation. When we employ the verbal cue of down, you do not repeat it. Just like everything else. We say heel, we say come, sit down, place, whatever. You never repeat the command. You simply reinforce it using the remote.
So is this meant to be something that we do with on leash? If I'm like mopping the floor, vacuuming, and I want to down him in his bed, or is that like a place?
So it could be both, right? So place is go to this object. I don't care what you do, just don't leave it.
Okay.
If you said place then down, it's no longer a place. It's a down that just so happens to be on place.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, is he scared of the vacuum? No? Is there anything that like sweeping or anything that disturbs him?
No.
No?
Pretty normal.
Okay, good.
Other
so, like,
than Bernice's.
the nieces?
Yeah, the Bernice's.
Oh,
Bernice.
okay. Oh, the Bernice. All right, gotcha.
Yeah.
So, let's say, for example, he did have an issue with the vacuum cleaner. One way to get him over that is to put him in a stationary command, and I start vacuuming around him, expecting the dog to break position or expecting him to become aggressive towards the vacuum. I correct it. Maybe he runs off a place. I keep promoting, lead him back to it. He goes back. I continue vacuuming, so he thinks, all right, when I'm here, I got to deal with that vacuum, and so it gives the dog something to focus on while something stressful is happening. Okay. So if you ever notice that about him, you know, where his behavior is getting wary, or you know, he's kind of like suspicious, he wants to run away from it. One way to get the dog over it is to put him in a stationary command, and then purposely bringing in whatever that object is, technically allowing the attempt or allowing him to fully like, oh, I'm getting out of here, correcting and bringing him back because you're saying that's not an option, right? By correcting and telling him you have to adhere to this command. So then it gives him a reference point, and you're like, all right, what's more important? This position that I'm in, where there's consequence if I leave it, or the stress of a vacuum going around me?
So would it be like, well, we just got a steam mat, and it like gets, you know, like boiling water. So he's really curious because it hisses, and I can see him like when I'm mopping, like wanting to go up and like lick it. And so like, is that something that I could like tap for?
Correct.
Okay, it doesn't have to just be turning away. Like, cause he's going towards it.
Oh, you mean turning yourself away?
No. Like with the vacuum situation, like he doesn't want to run away from it. He wants to run towards it.
Sure.
So would that be something that I could tap for?
Correct.
Okay.
So what you would be doing there is you're tapping him, saying, "Don't move towards the steamer."
Okay.
So that's a correction. So that's actually similar to what happened earlier with the dog, right? You said, "I don't want you to go towards the dog," and he repositioned. So when you do stuff like that, you have teaching, like prevention, and then there's intervention. Okay, prevention would be go to place as I steam, and he can't leave place so that he never interacts with the steamer. That's preventative. Interventive or intervention would be you're steaming, he is completely free in his own time, and he goes, "Hey, what you got over there?" And then you're intervening by tapping during the act of wanting to go towards the steamer, and he's going, "Oh, every time I try to go towards it, this happens, but when I move away from it, nothing happens." So then he learns to keep distance. Okay. I personally don't say anything when it comes to stuff like that because you want Bailey to learn when you pull out the steamer, go away. Okay, this has nothing to do with you just go away. I don't need them to light the steamer.
Yeah.
I just need them to not move towards it because I'm guessing if you can lick it, you can burn himself.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Is it's like, just like I know he wants to lick it. He licks everything.
Sure. So we would definitely want to correct that
Okay.
to prevent him from potentially burning himself.
Okay.
Now let's say you're at 35, and every time you bring out the steamer, you have to tap him one time. What does that tell you?
Should we go higher, maybe?
Yeah, because it's enough to stop him for each individual moment, but it's not enough for him to retain, I don't want to do this, period. So maybe you play with the number, you end up going on 50, for example, and then you tap him on 50, and then the next 20 times you steam, he wants nothing to do with it. Then he tries on the 21st time, and you tap him. And then you get 40 times of not wanting to do anything with the steamer. And then on the 41st time, he tries it, right? You're creating bigger and bigger gap between the attempts, because he's thinking, is the desire to lick this thing worth the 50? And ideally no, otherwise I keep escalating.
Yeah.
And dog logic is different than human logic, because you might think, let's say you go to 95, right? And he still keeps trying to go for the steamer, right?
Yeah.
People would think like, well, I'm going to stop because it's pointless. And I go, there's still have 32 more, 37 more levels or whatever. It's just the desire to lick the steamer is greater than 95 still. So then I keep going up 100, 105, whatever. So eventually he's like, you know what? It's not worth it to go, to attempt to lick the steamer for this particular number. And now you've achieved your working level. And then I watch how often do I have to reinforce that. Okay? And this goes with anything, like the dishwasher. If the dogs want to go in and he knows it's the dishwasher, your steamer, anything else that would get his attention, and you're like, nope, don't want that. You would simply correct it and find the appropriate level for it.
Okay. Cool.
Because I've had clients like, for instance, the dogs will go in the garbage, and they'll do 127 on the dog, and the dog will get up and run away. 10 minutes later, it's back in the garbage, right?
Yeah.
And they go, why? And I say, well, one, you're correcting when the dog's already in the garbage. So the dog's thinking, sure, I get blasted on 127, but it's worth it, right? So then I'll tell them, the moment you see the thought of going into the garbage, that's when you hit. So the dog goes, crap. Not even thinking about, or even thinking about going in the garbage causes 127, not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So you've been talking for 5-10 minutes, and you've been in that position.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. You should be able to get this no matter what's going on. At the restaurant and stuff like that. And it sounds like he's got it pretty decent down. Now we're just kind of tightening it up to make it that much more functional. At this stage of training, it is on the leash, so that you have the capacity to reinforce it. Because if you took off the leash and he got up, you have to then chase it down, grab him by the collar, walk him back, and then it's harder to get him to go back under control or under command. So I keep the leash on until I feel or I see that the dog doesn't require any leash tension or hand guidance, and will simply respond to the remote to go back down in position. Okay? So you can tell when a dog's got good concept because there's Kirby. That's one of our clients' dogs.
Oh, funny.
Is let's say he breaks position and you tap him, he lays back down again. Okay? With no words, nothing, just a tap. Goes back down. And that's good concept of remote means going to this position. Okay? Questions about any of this? All right, so I'm going to have you release Kirby. Bailey.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you do 3 more of the hand touch, and then we're going to start layering in the word. Okay? Good. Yep. There we go. Attaboy.
Okay, great.
Good. 2 more. Excellent. That's good. Very good. So once you see that down, there you go. That down, you can remove the hand and see how far he goes. Okay. If he doesn't go 100% of the way, I might experiment with the tap to see if the tap will send him. Otherwise, if he pops up, then you would go back to the hands. Okay. So. So we're gonna do the same process, but now we're gonna add in that cue. So go ahead and go to Bailey's right. And you're just gonna say the cue once, okay? So go ahead and lightly pull up to the sit. Tap. Good, we're gonna wait a moment. Lightly up, tap, tap, and relax.
Come here.
Okay, we're gonna wait a moment here, okay? So now that we're doing downs and sits, he's gonna start assuming, right?
Yeah.
So to clarify for him, I lightly pull up and tap, bring him to the sitting position. And what I start doing is varying the amount of time between the sit to the down. So he starts to wait for that cue, as opposed to assuming, oh, once you pivot around, I have to lay down, okay? So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna cue the word down first, then you're gonna start tapping. And if we see no response from Bailey, lightly pull up, tap, and relax. If you see no response as you're tapping, you're gonna then hand over that leash and lightly put pressure on the shoulders to get them to go down, okay? But no repeat.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Bailey, down.
Good. Now we're gonna remove the visual cue as well.
Oh,
So now it has to be like this, Bailey, down, and then see how you respond, okay?
Good. Wait.
Good. Wait a moment.
Bailey, down.
Good.
She shot the gun on that one though.
But he started when you said Bailey,
Yeah.
so he was assuming, right?
Yeah.
On the next one, we'll just say down.
Okay.
Okay? Right?
Good boy, buddy. Oh. Come on, let's go. This way.
Wait.
Down.
Good. Two more.
Good boy, buddy. Okay, come on. Let's go. Good boy. Yeah. Down.
Oh, good one. Right there.
Okay, good boy. Good boy. All right. Down.
Tap.
Down.
Right, no repeat. Okay.
Shit, sorry.
And then we're gonna relax right there. Very good. So you cued the down, right? There was no response, and then you tapped and repeated the
Yeah.
down, but he actually started responding to the tap.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I'm looking for, is that he's able to start to distinguish that the tap in this case needs to go in this position. This is the whole purpose of what we did earlier with using the pressure to guide them, because dogs don't just transition down and tapping as they go into this position. You have to teach them respectively.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I start to tie them together. So one thing that I've learned throughout the years is if I give a verbal down and the dog doesn't, and they do it quick enough that they avoid the tap, a lot of times it's kind of like they'll down, but it's not a real down because there was no tap involved, right? So they're doing it, but they're much more likely to break position because the assumption is there's no correction.
Yeah.
Okay? So if I said down and Bailey just went boom, perfect. But then if you were to break position, I definitely kick in with the remote. So he beat the punch on the cue.
Yeah.
So then it's like, all right, I did it, but it's not a real down because I didn't get promoted. 30 minutes later, he's like, all right, I'm gonna get up, and he goes tap tap, and he goes, whoa. He goes back down. He's like, oh, okay, it is a legitimate down. Okay. So it's just that process of allowing him to make those mistakes and tapping to reinforce it, to affirm for him that yes, this command does mean you stick to it.
So aren't mistakes okay like that? Because, all right, we had two trainers tell us that like that's not a proper down.
So
But he never sits with his legs spread. He always sits legs one way or the other.
yeah, so that Sphinx-like down,
Yeah.
like this, is not comfortable.
Yeah.
That's comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. So where they're coming from is competition. In the competition ring, you don't want that. But we're not in competition. We're in family pet. We need functional obedience. Okay.
Okay.
I care about function more than I care about aesthetic. So let's say you go to a restaurant, down Bailey, and he does it, and then maybe an hour in, he rolls on his back,
Yeah, I love that.
and he's still down, and he doesn't get up for another hour. Then I don't care. He's simply going like, if I'm gonna be here for a while, I might as well make myself as comfortable as possible. I go, perfect. But as long as he's in some type of down position, sitting up or standing up would not be allowed. You would correct that. But once he's here, on his side, on his back, legs up, I personally don't care. If I know the dog will hold it for a realistic amount of time. Okay? Question about that. Let me think here. Don't ideally, like when you're doing, in terms of practicing the down, don't do it during a heel.
Okay.
Okay, so like let's say you're walking a Bailey heel, you stop. I wouldn't practice a down here because you're going to create the problem of every time you're walking and you stop, you're going to automatically lay down. Okay. Now you actually might get that already because the reason why we do the down from the sit, which in the training role, by the way, is also a big no-no. Okay. Because what we end up creating is when we say down, a lot of times the dog will sit and then down. Okay. And again, competition, not good, but it's family time. The reason why we do it from the sitting position is because it's easier to teach it with the remote. So I always go by what's easiest for the owner to replicate.
Yeah.
So I worry about that first, right? So since we do that down from the sitting position, when you go into a heel and you come to a stop, some dogs will just go into this kind of like transformer mode where they're walk, stop, and down, and it's like a sequence. And we correct that by what we did earlier, which is that light pull up, tap to pop it back up, and then relax. Okay? So what you're teaching them is, when we're in heel, don't just assume the sequence unless I cue that verbal cue of down. Okay? But you can avoid it by not practicing it during that kind of context. When you do practice the down, we have two aspects here. We have the down, right? And then we have down, don't move. This repetitive down and release, I do 2 times a day, maybe 3, 2 to 3 minutes. That's it, okay? You're trying to make it very easy, like it was here. Down, boom, good. 3, around, down, boom, good. 3, that's it. The next half is down, don't move for the next 5 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever it is, okay? So, you can work with these two things concurrently or simultaneously. Let's say you do a session and then you decide to end the session with a 30-minute down. So you just cue on the down, step on the leash, and then maybe work from your computer or sit down on the couch and watch TV. But you're switching it up so he doesn't get too used to the down release. Because then every time you down him, he's going to pop back up again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In terms of application, like you already listed, you said the restaurant, the car, friend's house, stuff like that, is you have 2 options for stationary control now. You have place command and you have the down. The way I look at it is if you're going to be distracted, maybe go to a restaurant and you don't want to worry about reinforcing this. It's very strict because there's no, other than being laying down, there's no sitting or standing, right? I may opt for the place command. Because there, I don't care if you sit, stand, or lay down. It's just don't step off this boundary. So it can be more lenient for me so that I can enjoy my brunch or my dinner or whatever and not to worry about what is Bailey doing. If I come to the park here and I decide I'm going to read my newspaper at the park, I down Bailey, I step on my leash because my intention, yes, I'm going to be distracted, but I'm only going to be reading and I'll be more sensitive to like if the leash starts pulling. As opposed to if you're in a conversation where the waiter's asking you for your order, you're talking to Simon and all that stuff, where there's a lot more going on. So that's how I use the commands. Or maybe you go somewhere and it's like, I need stationary control, but I don't have anything to use for a placemat. Then I use my down. Okay?
Yeah. We're, in a month, we're taking him to the ocean. He's never been. So I'm hoping that we can use it on the beach.
Oh, sure.
Just like while we're eating or like, whatever.
Yeah. Have you ever been in water before?
He took him up to like Michigan like last year, like up in the UP where he like had a full beach to himself. But not really. He swims in my parents' pool.
Okay.
But
did he go in the lake at all?
I think like the dog needs maybe 2 years ago, but it's not like his favorite. He likes he's more of like a runner. Like he'll chase the ball in the water, but he won't go out there and
swim and stuff. He's not afraid of waves or anything.
No.
You seen him though?
Yes, at Monterey.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Only reason why I ask is like in some cases when the dog is apprehensive or scared of water, we can use the remotes to teach them to like water. And it's simply like, so if I'm walking with a dog towards the water and they start to go like this, like I want nothing to do with it, I just start tapping and bumping it, and so the dog goes running away from the water is good, and they shoot into it, and then everything turns off, and the dog goes, oh. So then they end up learning how to get over that.
Okay.
And then one wheel swimming and stuff. Otherwise, it sounds like you'd be fine.
Yeah, I'll ask you about it again before we leave, but I don't. He's just so curious. I don't think he really cares.
Sure. Yeah. No. And yeah, if there's no problem, then. But in case you do see that, you can use remotes to get them over that fear.
Okay.
And once the dog gets over it, they typically open up and they love
The water.
swimming and stuff
Okay.
because now they don't have that apprehension. So it's like going skydiving and that first jump being terrifying, and then you do it and it was like you're like, well, that was exhilarating. I really like that. And you do it again, and it's a little bit easier and easier and easier. So eventually you might be an avid, parachuter or whatever.
Yeah.
But that first experience is obviously very scary because you're jumping off a plane or a helicopter thousands of feet off the ground.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other
And then
questions?
That's it.
So this is good. Your obedience only as good as where you practice, right? So you know what you need from Bailey in terms of level of control and stuff. And if it's like, yeah, we would be at a place where it'd be highly trafficked, you want to definitely build up to that. One way to do that within the home is if I would spend like an hour here where there's tons of stuff going on, which is very distracting, to kind of compensate for that within the home, I might do like a 2 to 2.5 hour down. So I make longer down because it tests the dog's patience more to kind of compensate for the fact that I don't have distraction. So then when I come here, that hour should be equivalent or easier ideally than that 2.5 hour down within the home. Okay. In terms of practicing it, there's no such thing as too much practice for the duration stuff because it's not redundant. The repetitive, redundant stuff, I keep it again real short, 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're done. So it's like somebody telling you to sit, stand, sit, stand, sit, stand. Eventually, you're like, stupid.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for the dog. Okay. So I do a few of those until I feel like, okay, we're good. And I keep repeating a couple times a day. Otherwise, when it comes to duration, just down them, and you plan on, I'm going to do 45 minutes today, and then you reinforce it.
Okay.
At this stage, always with the leash on, and ideally in a position where you can step on the leash. So if you're sitting at the table, sitting at the couch, maybe you're going to stand while you're like making dinner or something, and you can step on the leash right there if you want to try it there. Anywhere where you're not going to move for a bit, you can employ this. Don't feel bad about it. That's another thing. You feel bad about the control.
Yeah.
Dogs sleep 16 to 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
So chances he's going to fall asleep, right? It's fine. You're just picking where you're doing it. For this week, if you're going to get up, so let's say you do 30 minutes and you decide, I want some water. Before you get up, Bailey, okay, free, break, release him. Then get up, go get your water or whatever, come back, and then if you want to re-down them, down, step on the leash, go back to what you're doing. We're trying to prevent the pattern of, because most people stand up and then they release, so then the dog starts to assume every time you stand up, I'm going to be free. Okay, so if you reverse that and you release before you stand up, he doesn't learn that pattern. Okay, and we prevent that potential problem.
Okay.
And then we build on it. So like this week, it's always at your feet, at your immediate space, and then by week 2, it's down, and then you will get up momentarily, walk away, come back, doesn't move. Then we build it to down, him being 4 to 5 feet away from you. And so if you wanted, down where he's across the room from you, right? To down, and he's 20, and I can go walk over to my car, come back, and he's still in the same spot, okay?
Yeah.
You decide how much control you have. Everybody is different, okay?
Yeah.
So I tell everybody, just do what's gonna be applicable to you.
I mean, that would be great because he's like a Velcro dog.
Yeah, it's really good. Like we had another dog that was like whining and pining because we were doing place and it wanted to go to the owner. And the owner's like, why is the dog whining? Like, because it wants to go to you mentally, but the e-collar's telling the dog it has to stay put. So there's some conflict there. Okay? questions?
I think we're good.
Good for that. So for your homework for this week, start the duration work. It's super easy to practice, but I think it's the one thing that people kind of blow off because it is so easy. Until it's like, oh crap, we're gonna need this in a week, and then you try to drill it out, right? So definitely, on somewhat of a regular basis, employ it. If you have an anxious dog, it does help anxious dogs settle, because anxiety again wants to move, and here you're forcing the brain to be stationary, so it helps them to dial down.
Yeah, he's more chill now.
Because the more you expose them to pressure, the tougher they get to the stresses of life. Because physicality for a dog is the ultimate stressor. Okay, because physicality is real. Physicality is something that they can connect to, and not something up here. So when they have to rationalize, it's like, what's worse, the thought of what's going to happen, or the fact that you know that this contraction is going to happen? Anything else? Okay, good job. So we'll go ahead and release.
Okay, buddy. Okay, let's go. You ready?
Attaboy.